Welcome class. Myself Professor D.S. Rai, Professor Department of Civil Engineering, BBD, ITM, Lucknow. Today, we will take up a course KCE 076 Urban Transportation and Planning, in which we will discuss land use. And today lecture is lecture 11. The references that we have taken is Chakravarti Partho and the Das Animes Principle of Transportation Engineering, Papacosta CS and Frivendoros PD Transportation Engineering and Planning, Cardiali LR and Lal LB Principle and Practices of Highway Engineering, Neptel, and some of the material has been taken from the internet. The content today we will cover the land use planning, land cover, land use planning, need for land use planning, land use and transportation system, land development life cycle, transport cycle, accessibility and mobility. So, we will take up one by one. As we know, whatever the development will occur in urban area or even the rural area that needs land. In rural areas, it is not so affected, but in the urban area, when the land use is not decided in advance of 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, it will be very difficult for the urban area to plan further development. So, it is a very much useful to decide which land could be used by the development authorities in advance of say 20 years, 30 years or 50 years. So, land, because land is a things which is not expanding at all, it is a fix in which we have to develop infrastructure for the population expansion of the city. So, what could we have to do? We have to plan for land use for the future development. Either that should be road network is very important, because whatever the communication will occur, that will be covered by the road transport system or railway transport system or metro, whatever may be. Later on it will be very difficult to acquire the land, because the cost will be very high in that case. So, in future it is decided how much area or how much area of land will require in say 50 years for the city urban development, or urban development. So, we have to decide it by the competent authority that this particular land is used for this purpose, this will be used for this purpose. So, this is earmarks for the future. If there is no planning for the land use, then the whole system of the city will collapse. So, we will discuss here the land use in the urban area. So, we can see here this is a map, you can say, but before going to start this one, land and revenue is the subject of a state government. So, earlier a state government had power to acquire the land for the particular purpose, but later on the central government has also make provision for the land acquisition. Because why land acquisition is important? Because land is not expanding at all. So, whatever the necessity that will be done in the planned way. So, we can come here, this is the national land use planning, in which central government involved, provincial government will involve, and local government or municipality or township, municipality, nagar nigam, a metro city, these will involve. And we see here this is the quota of construction land. Suppose a area is specified for the future development. So, here will be quota for particular type of work. So, the quota of construction land, quota for the farm land conversion. It is very important. No one can convert the nature of use of the land. Only competent authority will be able to change the nature of the land. So, and this power is vested for changing the nature of land are based on in area there the competent authority is LDA or something like that, or in rural area this is district board which has power to convert the nature of land. So, this is the quota of farmland and balance of the gross arable lands. So, this land use zoning could be done by the provincial land use planning, and the quota conform to the upper limit, and then the land are zoning. Local lands are use planning, quota conform for the upper level and land use zoning, and the lowest level is land development and the conversion of the farmland. So, conversion of the farmland into the for other purpose is a very difficult task which could be done by the only competent authority. So, we can say this could be only implemented by law policy and regulation. This law policy could be implemented by the central government or the state government policy and regulation, and the local body has also power for this one. So, and finally, the construction land expansion could be taken up. So, this is the land use. Land use can be defined as a series of operation on land carried out by human with the intention to obtain products and or benefit through using the land resources. So, many state government has made a land bank for the future development. Land use refers to the purpose the land serves or the different activities carried out in them, such as residential, commercial, recreational, etc. It does not describe the surface cover on the ground, because surface cover is slightly different thing. For example, a recreational land use could be occur in a forest, shrubland, grassland, or a manicured lawn. Now, come to the land cover. Land cover is the things which cover the entire land in the jurisdiction. The land cover refer to the surface cover on the ground, whether vegetation, urban infrastructure, water, bore soil and others. It does not describe the use of land, and the use of land may be different from the land with same cover type. For instance, a land cover type of forest may be used for the timber production, wildlife management and recreational type. So, this is a land cover. In short, land use indicates how people are using the land, where the land cover indicates the physical land type. Satellite imagery and aerial photographs can identify land cover, but inferring land use often requires more knowledge of the studied region. The understanding both land use and land cover and their transformation over time is important in urban planning, since they provide a history and background of the urban growth process. This understanding helps urban planner to decide what to retain, where to plan a new development and type of development, what to connect and what to protect. So, these are the objective of the land use. Land use planning is required to predict a spatial organization of population and economic activity in the region. Land use model serve two distinct purposes: forecasting total activities of an urban area, and second, allocating these activities among a predetermined set. Land use planning for a city is a complex task and need to done carefully. Change in the land use pattern are generally irreversible, because once it is decided, one thing is constructed in that particular piece of land, it is very difficult to change the nature of land, because it will hazard many things. It will reflect this will reflect on the many developments. So, that could be done very carefully, because it is generally irreversible. Need for land use planning. So, we can see here, this is the this is the participatory land use planning. Then ecosystem based land planning means how much participating, this is the ecosystem, how much forest will require, how much water body will require, that could be considered. Then the regional land use planning is required, because development is based on that one, and who will avail the development, that could be taken into consideration in the regional land use. The integrated land use planning is also important, in which many factors are considered for the development. Then the territorial ecological balance is also required for the land use. The urban land use planning is also done, and then the spatial, we have discussed many times the spatial land use planning. So, that will include the land use planning. Land use and transportation system are inseparably linked. The concept of accessibility considers the basic underlying relationship between the land use and the transportation. So, Now, come to the land development life cycle. We can see here. So, this is the concept. We have a certain concept in which the land is used. Then come to the planning and zoning review. Once it is used, then it could be reviewed. Then the design, then the review process and permitting, then the construction and inspection is required, occupancy is there, and then the renewal of the land use may consider. So, this is the road development life cycle. Then come to the transport cycle. Suppose there is some infrastructure. So, there is a land use, suppose a road. So, there is a land use for the road construction, and that infrastructure, that road will make a trip to connect different places of the city. And this is the transport needs. Then, if there is a road, then there is a requirement of transport facilities. It may be car ownership, may be public, may be pooled. So, may be metro, may be urban railway. So, transport facilities should be there. Then accessibility, come for the accessibility, means how you are availing the facility provided for the transporting. As the accessibility increases, the land value of that particular area will increase. And again, this will be land use may be considered. So, this is the land use transport cycle, means the whole cycle is going on. First, land use, whatever the existing facilities are there, that could be taken up. So, then the trip will generate with in the respect of transportation. This is the transportation needs from one place, sending goods or people from one place to another. Then the transport facilities are required. Once the transport facilities are required, make available, then accessibility will require. As the accessibility increases, then the land value will increase. So, this cycle will go on the regular basis. So, we can see here again, this is the land use, again this is the trip for the as far as transportation is concerned. Then this is the transportation needs. Then once there is a need of transportation, then we have to provide the transportation facilities like car, bus, metro, urban rails, etc., etc. So, we will provide transportation facilities, and then come to the accessibility. How easily, how one can get transportation system easily. This is the accessibility. Once the accessibility improves, then the value of land in that particular area will automatically increase. And again this will go for land use, and this cycle will go on the regular basis. Now, come to the accessibility. Accessibility refers to the ease of movement between places. It indicates a special relationship or degree of connection between one location and all other locations in a region. Accessibility increases either in terms of time or money. Whenever you talk about the increment, means that maybe in terms of facilities, easiness, money, time saving, etc. So, you can say in urban area the unit of distance is in shape of money, time, rupees, comfort, etc., etc. When the movement become less costly, despite of this, the people of the city, the urban area like to lesser cost of transportation. I am giving one example, metro. Metro in Lucknow. The passenger for the metro of Lucknow are not available because the metro cost or travelling on metro cost is very high as compared to the other transport facility available in the Lucknow. So, people are not willing to travel in metro. This is a big problem. Then the capacity for the interaction increases as the cost of movement decreases. This is important. Now, personal accessibility. The personal accessibility is measured by counting the number of activities, sites. It is also called opportunity. We can call opportunity because in urban area opportunity is also a type of attraction available at the given distance from the person's home and factoring the number by intervening distance. Accessibility measures can be calculated for the specific type of opportunity. One such measure is given by this is AT, OJ and Dij to the power minus B sum over the j and I and j. So, sum over of this. So, this is the AI and which could be given by where AI is accessibility of person I, OJ is the number of opportunity at the distance from the person is at home and Dij is the sum measure of separation between I and j, travel time, travel cost, simply distance, etc., etc., and B is the constant. Then the personal accessibility. Here accessibility of everyone living in a particular zone is aggregated and therefore, there is no way of distinguishing among a different group of the people within a zone such as whose with the cars and those without cars. For example, all 1000 workers living in a zone R1 are all assumed to be own car and have to reach in E1 in 9 minutes. So, everybody will have to car. A person ability to reach a different location in a city depends only in the part of the relative location of those places. It also depends on mobility and the transportation system that exists Accessibility is the measure of opportunity or potential provided by the transport land use system for the different type of the people to the particular participate in the activities. Three essential components of accessibility are the geographical contribution and intensity characteristic of the existing transportation system. So, then come to the mobility. Mobility is the ability to travel from one place to another in a urban area associated with the particular group of urban resident. Indicates the case with which a person can move out that depends on performance of transportation system and ability of individuals. The measured in the term of trips made by all modes. This can be spent on the travel often expressed in terms of number of trips made by an individual or household or sometimes in terms of the total amount of travel. Mobility disadvantage of mobility measurement per capita trip. There can be many short trip or trip of all trip length will be given same weightage. It can be affected by distribution of the population by the age group in the zone. For the example, there will be very less number of trip produced by the age group of 0 to 10 years. Mobility level in the terms of the average distance travel per trip could be better measure than per capita trip. So, the following equation is developed by Mumbai city. The black that is black accessibility that will be equal to 18.77 minus 1.44 into mobility. When mobility is expressed as a distance travel, then it is found that as the accessibility index increases, the mobility decreases. Hence, the distance travel is not actual mobility, but is a measure of mobility needs. Concept of mobility has been used rather indiscriminately to refer to both supply side and demand side of the transportation system. But the mobility is strictly related to the supply side of transport when defined in this sense. So, thank you very much. Thank you.